Have you ever thought about starting a tabletop role-playing game and as you're playing the game, actually build your characters? To come in not with pre-made characters or not have somebody hand you a character, but while you play, you actually develop all of the stats for your characters in the middle of the game. Well, that's what Resupply the Bearded Knights tries to attempt in the beginning. So as you're traveling through, you're talking with this NPC, Torm, and Torm asks each character in turn their background. He asks them about where they're born and where they came from and how that shaped their lives. And so the concept is, as you're playing this game at the table, you can have each person in your party, in your group at the table, either build the characters as you go through it or describe the characters that they came with to the table. They could be playing a pre-gen character or they could have made one from home, but the concept is everybody kind of learns about the other characters at the table in play. That's the idea anyway. I haven't actually had a chance to play this in person and build the characters from scratch, but maybe one day I'll get a chance to do that. Anyway, in this video, I'm going to walk you through the Bearded Knights, or Resupply the Bearded Knights. So this is a all-in-one adventure. It's print and play materials. It's got a battle map. It's got printable tokens or standees that you can use to start your game out with. And it also has some printable item cards. The concept is you can play a whole game session with this document. And the best part is it's free. You will, if you want to make your own characters, you will need the player's tome of Along the Leyline, or you could just steal this and rip it and, hack it for some other system. So here's the concept. Here's the background. You've got these bearded knights who are super do-gooders, and they are guarding the edge of civilization because some kind of necromancer has been creating amalgams, like undead creatures that he's spliced together and sending them against the town. In this particular adventure, there's flying eyes and there's crawling eyes, which are like giant eyeballs with bat wings or giant eyeballs with tentacles that roam them around. Pretty creepy stuff. And if the Bearded Knights leave that post, then this necromancer is going to send up this army against all civilization. So they can't leave the post, but they still need food. They still need items to repair things. So your group, your adventuring party, is going to head up and help defend. And while you're doing this, you are going to be learning your characters and learning how to play the game. So if you look on page 2, it introduces the NPCs. There's Vandoria and there is Torm Adia. Vandoria is the leader of the dwarves in the Bearded Knights. So the Bearded Knights in the lore started out as founded by dwarves, but you don't have to be a dwarf to be a Bearded Knight. Although if you can't grow a beard, you're supposed to grow a beard, obviously, they're the Bearded Knights. But if you can't grow one, they give you fake beards. And so the Bearded Knights will happily offer anybody a fake beard if they want. It's kind of like a sign that says hey, you agree with, doing good and helping people out. Yeah. But anyway, Vandoria is going to be the leader here, and she's going to be the one that will train them once they get to the camp. And Torm Adia, Torm is going to be there on the journey. He's hired the PCs to go with him and to resupply the knights. And so Torm is going to be asking all the questions in the beginning, and then it's going to switch to Vandoria. So if you look on page 3, it has a list of questions for character creation and walkthrough. So the first is you're going to choose a species. You'll have to do this at the beginning because obviously Torm is not going to be so insensitive to say, what kind of species are you? So go ahead and you could do that kind of out of character. You'll choose a species. You will pick your size if you have a size range. You'll describe your characters, you'll write down the species specials, and you'll roll for HP and MP. And this is kind of like just starting you out. Then it's going to talk about where you're born. So Torm is going to go around the table and ask where you're born, where you grew up. And the players can either roll their social status, roll their birth events, or they could kind of come up with them on their own. That's fine either way, or talk about one that they've already created. Next, they're going to ask about how you grew up. And so this is going to determine your socioeconomic status. Were you growing up in the city? Were you growing up in the country? How are you growing? And from that, you'll be able to describe your advantages and disadvantages on social or environmental checks. And so it kind of builds the character up. And so each player could then describe how they grew up, how they got advantages, how they got disadvantages, and role play it up as you see fit and your table's comfortable with. Next, you're going to talk about the apprenticeships. So apprenticeships are how characters are going to increase their skills. Maybe they're better at athletics, maybe they're better at lockpicking, maybe they're better at being sneaky, or maybe they're better at talking to people, diplomacy. So all of these kind of skills are going to be gained as a part of their apprenticeships, and hopefully some combat skills, because a lot of the game does revolve around combat, although it doesn't have to. You can be smart and play around it if you want. After that, you're going to talk about special abilities. You're going to choose your feats. So in Along the Leyline, you choose 3 feats for your starting characters, and these feats can be from any kind of class you want. Now, if you're a starting player or you're new to tabletop role-playing games, then I recommend choosing all from the same, well, they're called classes. They're organized together in a class, but you can really pick from anything. So you can pick like a Knight Errant and pick Flourish. You can pick, Weapon of Choice and Two-Handed Weapon Mastery, or any kind of feats that you want for your characters, and then you can start the game. And so if you're going to be a new player, just stick to one of those pages because they all have feats that kind of work together. And as you advance, you might look at all the different classes and mix and match the different feats to make really cool characters that can have cool combos of those feats. Then you're going to talk about your equipment, and you can choose the starting equipment from the starting equipment list. After that, the Torm is going to ask anything else like you want to share, and then once everybody kind of goes around the table and shares all of those things, then you arrive at the camp. And so hopefully this concept leads you into building your characters, and now you've kind of built your characters, then you go into the camp, and this is going to be where the players are going to learn the basic mechanics of Along the Leyline. So first, Vandoria is obviously going to welcome them to the camp. In the camp, you will have a little bailey, a little wall that separates the outside edge. There is an entryway that has doors. There's on opposite end of the bailey, there are doors that way too, so that the knights can go out and fight any kind of amalgams that they need to, or, pick up the arrows or sling bullets that they've sent over the wall. Okay, so the first thing that's going to happen is Vandoria is going to attack each of the players and have them block. So she will roll her melee die, and the players will roll their block die. Now, when you block, you take damage reduction. So if you roll a 4 and Vandoria got an 8, you'll take 4 points of damage. If you roll a 5 and she got a 6, you'll take 1. If you roll 3 and she rolls a 2, you take no damage because your block was greater than her attack. So blocking is really powerful. However, it starts at a lower die. Dodging is going to be at a higher die, but we'll talk about those consequences here in a minute. So once the players block, they'll then get a chance to attack Vandoria. She will ask everybody to come and attack her, and everybody will attack all at the same time in the same round of combat. But Vandoria has a shield. And when you have a shield, you can fortify as a reaction. You can block everything within the round. So in Along the Leyline, we don't have like AC, like D&D. You have to actively defend. And if you don't actively defend, then the attack just hits you full force. Now, because you have a shield, you can block all of the attacks that come at you. But if you don't have a shield, then that means you can only block one attack each round. So that makes shields super important. And the concept here is to highlight how important shields are and how useful they can be in combat. You can block everything that hits you with a shield. Now, if you don't have a shield and only one person's attacking you and you want to risk it, you can try to dodge, because everybody's dodge dice starts out at a higher level. You start at a D6 instead of a D4. And if you're at a D6 and somebody's swinging at you, maybe you have good odds. You could also jump and fall prone and get advantage on your dodge, but then the next round you start off prone. Anyway, if you get hit with a dodge, you're trying to dodge, but they still hit you, they still roll greater, then you take the full force. You don't get that damage reduction like blocking does. So blocking is more consistent, but starts out a lower die. Dodging is a higher risk, but you also have a higher die. So that's blocking. Then the players will all get a chance to attack, which we already talked about. And next comes saving throws. After this, Vandoria is going to offer all of the players Dwarvish mead. Anybody who takes the mead has to make a body saving throw. Now, normally in games, when you are having to make a saving throw, you just have this number that you have to meet. But in Along the Leyline, that number can actually change as things progress in the game. So if you fail a save, that save actually can drop and become lower. So you start at a d6, and if you roll a 1, a 2, or a 3, then that saving dice can drop. Now, here as we're learning this, you won't actually make the players lose and drop that, but they can still suffer a consequence. If they fail this saving throw, which is a body saving throw for drinking the dwarves mead, they'll fall prone. So it's just kind of something funny and lighthearted to kind of get over like, hey, hooray, you kind of learned this new event. After that, then the Vandoria is going to ask them to all participate in this game of throwing stones. And there's going to be different sizes of stones, which are going to represent different target numbers. So whenever you do something that's harder, there's a higher target number. And whenever you do something that's easier, there's going to be a lower target number. So Vandoria is going to pick up one of the stones and chuck it, and then she's going to ask the players if they would join and try to chunk things. And so if they pick up the small rock, it's going to be it's a target of 2. If they pick up medium, target 3, large, target 4, very large, target 5. And there's no consequences here. It's just kind of to learn about, hey, there are also environmental actions that you can interact with, and there are other things besides just attacking and blocking that this game is about. And if you want to try to do something like that, there's still a check to take. Once everybody's gone through and had a chance to throw a stone or not, they can opt out. Then the flying eyes are going to attack. And this is where you have combat for real. So hopefully all of the players kind of have a gist of what to do, and you'll enter combat right away. Now for flying eyes, they're going to come and enter. The players could choose, you know what, I'm going to nope out. I don't want to attack these guys and run away. If that happens, then the Bearded Knights are going to try to defend the PCs. But hopefully your PCs will realize that they're the heroes of the story, and they should jump in to try to attack. Okay, so these flying eyes and crawling eyes are designed to make the first combat not super deadly. You don't want to like go in with your first character, you just made him, you're feeling attached, and then all of a sudden squash, they're dead. That feels bad. So we want to kind of ease them in. So the flying eye has a couple of attacks that they can do. They can do the stare. It says flying eyes peers into your soul. Make an opposed spirit saving throw, and on a failure, your spirit save drops. So basically these eyes are like looking at the characters so intensely, it's like leering into their soul, then the players get scared and their spirit save drops. Now, if it goes from a d6 to a d4, and then from a d4 down, the players become terrified, they get scared, they have to either stand still or run away, but they can't go toward the action. So basically, they can make them run away. That's one of their big attacks. The second one is to wrap them up, that the flying eye attempts to grapple a character in its tail, and then it can do d4 slashing. Now, if they get a critical on the claw attack, or d4 slashing, the claw knocks the item you're holding out of your hand. So in Along the Leyline, the monsters have critical hit effects, and every single one is different. So be sure to look at the criticals. The way that criticals work is when you roll the high number on your die. So for d4, if you roll a 4, then the critical goes into effect. Crawling eyes are very similar to flying eyes, but they're a little bit easier because they do still have that claw attack, they do still have that stare, but they don't have that tail wrap that they can't really grab and the characters. They still scuttle around. Now they do have scuttling, so crawling eyes ignore difficult terrain, which kind of puts them on even footing with flying eyes because flying eyes fly around. Flying eyes have 7 HP and 4 MP, and crawling eyes have 10 HP and 2 MP. So crawling eyes are a little bit easier to kind of make go crazy or insane, whereas flying eyes are a little bit easier to knock out of the sky. So that kind of sets them up as slightly different monsters. You can use all crawling eyes or all flying eyes or a mix of both. Play it how you like. I wouldn't give them more than one a character, and actually I'd probably do half per character. So 2 flying eyes for 4 characters for PCs would be a good way to start. If you look on pages 9 and 10, you'll find a couple of random tables. The random event or random encounter tables at the camp have a bunch of different things that are going on in the camp at the time, which will bring life to this dwarven outpost. Now, you can obviously just read ahead and choose the one that you like and go ahead and introduce that into your game, or you can play it chaotic and roll for it at the table. In addition, at the end of the adventure, there is a loot table that you can use to roll on to give your players extra loot on top of what they find in the monsters. I find that rewarding players with monster loot and extra loot really makes the game work better. So at the end of the adventure, you can reward your players with 50 gold or 1d100 gold, whichever one you feel like. What we want to try to do is about every other session, you want your characters to level, and 100 gold equals a level. And from here, you could go on to do like Necromancer's Hovel, which will be the next video that I will walk you through. It is on DriveThru RPG as well. Link in the description below, because that one talks about a necromancer. And so it's a natural fit for the story. Here we are, the dwarves in this dwarven camp, and now we need to go find that necromancer. Where are they? All right, thank you so much for watching this video. Please like and subscribe. I would really appreciate any kind of help that you would provide this channel, as we are very young so far. And I hope all of your games are full of dread and laughter.